would win the war, actually. But they could not pull that many from the US because of the anti-war sentiment sweeping at the time in the USA. During Kim Il-sung's visit to Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh requested North Korea's military assistance. Kim could offer only a few dozen military advisors and pilots, but told him what he could do around the Korean DMZ to prevent South Korea from sending more troops to Vietnam. So North and South Korea engaged in numerous lower-level skirmishes in and around the Korean DMZ in the 60s. That's about the time Bob went to tour of Korea. This has become known as the Korean DMZ War, only known in the countries outside of Korea, but never in Korea itself. The most daring North Korean raid during this period were the Blue House raid and the Pueblo incidents. Now, the North Korea launched an attack on 21st of January 1968 to kill the South Korean President Park Chung-hee in his residence in Seoul, known as the Blue House. In South Korea, this is known as the 121 incident because it took place on 21st of January. The North Korean raid party, is called Unit 124, reached within 500 meters of the Blue House when they were challenged by police and the shooting started. So of the 31 members of Unit 124, 29 were killed, one was captured, the other one escaped to North Korea. South Korean casualties totaled 26 killed and 66 wounded, including about 24 civilians. And 4 American soldiers also were killed in attempts to block the escaping commandos from crossing the DMZ. Later on, North Korea refused to receive the bodies of their soldiers, saying they had nothing to do with the raid and claimed it was an uprising within South Korea. The dead commandos were buried in the enemy soldiers cemetery in Paju, South Korea. Now, just 2 days after the Blue House raid, the North Korean Coast Guard and the Air Force captured the USS Pueblo and held its 82 crew members hostage. One was killed in the skirmishes. It was a week before the start of the Tet Offensive in South Vietnam. The North Korea demanded the US to admit the spy ship breached into their territorial waters and to apologize. Eventually, the US relented to the North Korean demand and the crew were released on 23rd December 1968. Today, USS Pueblo is docked at the river in Pyongyang and open to the public as a museum and as a tourist attraction. Now, so what were the end results of the Blue House raid? North Korea's Kim Il-sung solidified his grip on power and established a monolithic ideological system which produced the Kim hereditary dynasty. So today's Kim Jong-un's grandfather was Kim Il-sung. So North Korea is still under this system today. In the South, Park Chung-hee, the president, also strengthened his grip on power and created a political system that kept him in power until he was assassinated in 1979. But that political system lasted until 1987 when people had had enough and rose up against the generals. It was 1993 when South Korea became a fully functioning democracy. Thank you. Back to Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the rundown, Euigoo. And so now we're going to read the prologue to the book. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to read in English, and whenever the prologue has all North Korean characters in it, so whenever a character speaks, Euigoo is going to follow up with a Korean to give you kind of the flavor of what it sounds like in Korean. So the Blue House Raid, prologue, January 1967, Unit 124 Training Camp. Bak Jun-seok had stood at attention for an hour, bidding his body not to shake. A senior lieutenant, a few years older, mid-30s, stood nearby in silence, ignoring the cold, a rucksack at his feet. The midwinter air had seeped through every thread of wool in Jun-seok's uniform and clenched every millimeter of his skin. He wore neither mittens nor gloves and dared not pull his hands into his sleeves. The cold has done its damage, Jun-seok thought. It can do no more. I accept it. The two lieutenants were on a small parade ground in front of a barracks of cement blocks. His front door swung open and a broad-shouldered officer, a captain, approached. He held a brown hardwood spindle in his right hand, tapping it against the open palm of his left. He circled Jun-seok twice, looking him up and down. So, you're an officer now, a brand new lieutenant, eh?
그래, 네가 이젠 장교라고. 새내기 속이란 말이가.
Comrade Captain, said Jun-seok.
그래, 대위동부.
Shut up, said the captain.
짝시라.
Jun-seok pulled in his chin and stared forward. For the next few months, said the captain, you're not a big shot lieutenant. You're scum. If you survive, then you can consider your exalted status.
앞으로 몇 달간 너는 잘 나가는 소위가 아니다. 너는 쓰레기다. 여기서 살아남으면 그때는 네 높아진 지위를 생각해 볼 수 있겠지만.
Comrade Captain.
네, 대위동부.
I told you to shut up.
닥치라고 했지.
The captain's right hand rose. Can't you obey a simple order?
간단한 명령 하나도 복종 못하간.
The captain's bludgeon slammed the side of Jun-seok's face. Stars shattered his vision and his knees wobbled. Do you have anything more to say?
더 할 말이 있나?
Jun-seok tightened his lips. The captain smiled. You're a fast learner, comrade scum, but you look cold.
빨리 배우는구만, 쓰레기 동무. 그런데 동무가 추워 보여.
He turned to the other officer. Comrade Jung, maybe you can help warm him up.
정동무, 이 동무 체온 좀 올려줘야겠다.
With pleasure, comrade captain.
알겠습니다, 대위동무.
Jung lifted the rucksack resting at his feet and held it out. Put it on, Jung said.
메라.
Jun-seok grasped the rucksack with two hands and tilted forward from its weight, at least 30 kilograms. He recovered his balance and put one arm through a shoulder strap, then the other. On the double, said Jung.
뛰어, 갓.
Jun-seok lifted his left knee and advanced his frozen left foot, then his right knee and foot, bouncing into a standard double-time pace. Faster, shouted Jung. Move your ass, comrade scum. Do you think this is a joke?
더 빨리 움직여, 쓰레기 동무. 이게 장난인 줄 아니?
Jung came along Jun-seok's right ear. Do you think this is a joke?
지금 장난하나?
Jun-seok knew enough not to reply. Jung continued the harangue. Why are you dragging your ass? Why did you come here, wasting our time?
꽁무니 뒤로 배는 동작 좀 봐라. 여기는 뭐 때문에 왔니? 시간 낭비하려고?
The camp buildings of gray block disappeared as Junseok turned uphill on a narrow path. His legs ached, his limbs ached, his shoulders throbbed where the pack straps dug in. Minutes felt like hours. The path turned right and the pitch of the uphill lessened. From behind, Jong said, "Slow down. Are you trying to kill us?"
천천히. 누구 죽일 일 있니?
His voice sounded good-natured. Thinking it a ploy, Junseok maintained his pace. "Slow down. That's an order." "Okay, that's it. Now slow down some more."
천천히. 명령이다. 좋아. 이제 그만. 좀 더 천천히.
For another 5 minutes, Junseok loped at less than a double-time pace. "Halt," said Jong.
정지.
Junseok stopped in the position of attention, the rucksack almost pulling him over backwards. Jong advanced to his front. "How do you feel?"
기분이 어때?
Junseok considered his response as he gathered his wind. "My pain is nothing compared to what the great leader has endured for us, Comrade Lieutenant."
제 고통은 위대한 지도자 동식께서 우리를 위해 겪으신 고통에 비하면 아무것도 아닙니다, 상위동무.
Jong threw back his head and laughed. Junseok kept his eyes front and his lips pursed. Irreverence unnerved him. Was this a test? With the back of his right mitten, Jong wiped snot from his nose and tears from his eyes. "You're going to like Unit 124, he said.
자네는 124군 부대를 좋아하게 될 거야.
"Here, let's take a break, and I'll explain a few things. Drop that rucksack."
자, 잠깐 쉰다. 몇 가지 설명해 줄 거 있다. 배낭 내려놓으라.
Junseok looked around. Nothing but Jong, ground, rocks, and scrub trees. In Jong, Junseok saw an oblong face and lean torso. Not starving lean, but muscle lean. Jong lowered himself to a squat and motioned. Junseok removed the rucksack, placed it on the ground, and squatted, facing Jong. Jong pulled off a mitten and from under his jacket extracted a cigarette and lit it. He passed it to Junseok. "My name is Jong Myung-sung. I went through the same shit a while ago. I got mine directly from Captain Hao."
내 이름은 정명승이다. 나도 이 짓거리를 얼마 전에 마쳤어. 허대위한테 직접 훈련을 받았지.
Junseok blew smoke and returned the cigarette. "One reason you'll like it here," said Jong, "is we eat well. White rice with every meal, meat every day, sweets. You know why?"
자네가 여기를 좋아하게 될 이유가 한 가지 있지. 우린 잘 먹어. 매끼 흰쌀밥, 고기도 매일, 과자도. 왠지 아니?
Junseok shook his head. "Because," said Jong, "our comrade commanders love us."
우리 지휘관 동무들이 우리를 사랑하기 때문이지.
Jong again threw back his head and laughed. "Comrade Bok, Junseok, do I have to order you to laugh at my jokes?"
박준석 동무, 내 농담에 웃으라고 꼭 명령해야 하는 거이가?
Junseok forced a smile. "It's because we're the best," said Jong. "That's why they feed us. They want us tough, and they can't toughen us up just with beatings and running. We need food."
우리가 그들에게는 최정예이기 때문이지. 그것이 우리를 잘 먹이는 이유지. 우리가 강인해지기를 원하는 거야. 패고 구보를 많이 시킨다고 강해지지 않지. 음식이 필요한 거야.
Junseok nodded. What's your 성분? Wavering?
자네 성분이 뭐이가? 동요계청?
Jun-sok nodded again. 40% of the population of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea belong to the central wavering class. 30% to the top core class and 30 to the bottom hostile class. Jun-sok's family stood in the upper third of the wavering class, but wavering nevertheless. I thought so, said Chong. Me too. And here we are with commissions and members of an elite unit. It's worth a few beatings and running with rocks on your back, don't you think?
그럴 것 같았어. 나도 그래. 자, 우리는 지금 임관과 함께 정예부대의 일원이 되어 있는 거야. 몇 대 두들겨 맞고 등에 돌을 치고 일만한 거디. 안 그래?
I agree, comrade, Jun-sok said with hesitation.
동의합니다, 동무.
What is it, said Chong. If you have a question, ask it. That's what I'm here for.
뭐이가? 질문이 있으면 말하라. 그러라고 내가 있는 거니까.
Why don't they take all their candidates from the core class? Why do they let us wavering in?
왜 지망생 정부를 핵심 계층에서 데려오지 않지요? 우리 동요 계층을 받는 이유가 뭐지요?
That's easy to answer. Because of the beatings and running with rocks. If you were core, where would you want to be? In Pyongyang or out here?
그건 답하기 쉬운 질문이지. 구타도 당하고 돌을 등에 지고 뛰어야 하기 때문이야. 자네가 핵심 계층이라면 어디에 있고 싶겠나? 평양 아니면 여기?
At the mention of Pyongyang, Jun-sok thought, I would like to visit the capital city once before I die. And Chong's answer didn't quite satisfy him. Wouldn't the core class want to serve at the highest level, no matter the sacrifice? The captains are from the core class, said Chong, raising his eyes as if in deference or defiance. Jun-sok couldn't tell which. Captain Hao? He's core, but he's okay once you get by the initiation. Now I want to tell you something. I could run you until you drop dead. I could keep you going like we started out. You know why I don't?
대위들은 핵심 계층 출신이지. 허대위. 그분은 핵심 계층이지만 자네가 신고식만 마치고 보면 괜찮은 사람이야. 근데 자네한테 할 말이 있네. 나는 자네가 쓰러져 죽을 때까지 뛰게 할 수도 있고 아까 우리가 출발했을 때처럼 계속 뛰게 할 수도 있어. 내가 왜 안 그러는지 알아?
Jun-sok remained silent. Because I see you're a good fit for this unit. You're strong. You're dedicated. You're a bit too serious. We'll work on that.
왜냐하면 내가 보기엔 자네는 이 부대가 적성에 딱 맞아. 강인하고 열심이고 근데 어쩌면 너무 모범생이야. 그 부분은 손을 좀 봐야겠지.
Zhong extinguished the flame of the cigarette between thumb and forefinger and pushed the remains into his coat pocket. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going easy on you, but I'm not in the habit of killing off good candidates. Also, you're from my neighborhood. You're 60 kilometers up from Goksan-up, right?
오해 말게. 자네를 봐주겠다는 것이 아니야. 그렇다고 내가 훌륭한 후보생을 낙방시키는 사람은 아니고 더구나 자네는 우리 고향 사람이군. 자네 고향이 독산읍에서 위로 60km에 있지. 맞아?
Right, comrade.
맞습니다, 동무.
So I'm 40 kilometers up. We have a cannery and some other factories.
그래, 내 고향은 40km 위에 있고 통조림 공장과 다른 공장이 몇 있지.
Jun-sok knew the area from passing through. Not much where you are, said John. Farms, no?
자네 쪽에는 별것 없지. 농촌 아니니?
Junsak nodded. All farms.
전부 농가입니다.
Okay, Comrade Bach. Enough chit-chat. Get that rucksack on your shoulders.
좋아. 박동무. 잡담은 이 정도로 하고 저 배낭 어깨에 매라.
A half hour later, the block buildings of the camp came into sight. Pick up the pace, said Zhang. We must look good coming in.
속도 올리라. 들어갈 때 보기 좋아야 하지 않겠소?
Junsak ran until ordered to stop in front of the barracks. As the front door opened, Zhang stepped next to Junsak and stood at attention. Oh approached and said to Zhang, what do you think?
어떻게 생각하나?
Comrade Captain, said Zhang. He's lazy and weak, but it can be kicked out of him.
대위동무. 느리에 빠지고 약하지만 그런 건 시정할 수 있다고 생각합니다.
Ho looked at Junsak. What do you have to add?
귀가는 할 말이 있나?
Junsak stood mute. Did I say shut up? Ho raised the bludgeon. Did you hear me say shut up? I want an answer, Comrade Scum.
내가 입 닥치라고 했나? 내가 입 닥치라고 하는 말이라도 들었어? 대답해, 쓰레기 동무.
Comrade Captain, said Junsak. I'm not worthy, but will strive every moment to become so.
대위 동무, 제가 지금은 쓸모없지만 훌륭한 전사가 되도록 계속 열심히 노력하겠습니다.
Howell lowered the bludgeon and tapped it against his left palm. A peripheral glance revealed Zhang at attention, not smiling, not a trace of sarcasm. He said the captain was okay, but still one never knew. Words had to be weighed and uttered with care, not with the openness Zhang had displayed earlier. Nevertheless, Junsak felt relieved. For all the running with rocks and the bludgeoning, this was no worse than grammar school self-criticism. So, Robert, that's the end of the reading, if you want to take it back.
A couple of things. One, if anybody wants to order the book, if you go to chat, you can get to Bob's website and you can order from there. So it's down in the chat box. I think at this point it would be good to open it up to people who are here. If anybody has any questions or any comments or any thoughts, this would be a really nice time to join in on the event.
Otherwise, we'll have to call on people.
Okay.
Can I just say thank you? Oh, go ahead.
I have the book and I've read the first 4 chapters and it's very good. The writing is great. Bob has a way of moving things along quickly. It's an easy read. It's fascinating. I was in the Connecticut National Guard for 6 years, from 1966 to 1972. Then I served at Fort Dix for basic training. I served at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri for my AIT. I was and I never got to go to Vietnam because we were fighting riots basically in the States. And I don't ever remember hearing about this incident, which is amazing, but you brought that up. I mean, I don't think it was ever a point of discussion. And yet I had been old enough to have experienced, Korea in terms of, watching the news before Vietnam occurred.
Yeah, I think Vietnam kind of overshadowed everything at that point.
Yeah, Vietnam and the Puebla, what happened to Puebla, because it took place nearly at the same time. what happened in Korea was actually totally buried.
Yeah, and Pueblo did get the present. I do remember that well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Carletta?
Oh, I wanted to appreciate the reading and the way you both have done that, and it was woven. It was beautiful to listen to. I have not read the book yet, but I look forward to reading it, and certainly Robert has been sharing about it, Robert Roth. But the reading was really, really beautiful. So I just wanted to appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. I love the English into the Korean going back and forth. But Bob, I have a question for you. I mean, you said that at age, I guess, 24, you were looking forward to writing the great, war novel? Is that what you called it?
Right. I mean, all young writers aspire to write a.
So how, at what age? I mean, how old, when did this desire to write a war novel come about? It wasn't just going over them. Was this something was fermenting when you were a child? I mean, how did your writing come about?
Well, I grew up, it was kind of a different era back then. You know, I grew up with my parents and uncles having been in World War II, Korean War. And from when I was young, I always kind of had this desire to write. And, boys are kind of into adventure.
Yeah.
So naturally, gravitated towards an adventure story like and there were a lot of war novels then coming out also, dealing with World War II and then the Korean War. So I think that was probably, what I was thinking of then.
Were you an enlistee or draftee?
Well, I actually enlisted, but I enlisted maybe about a week ahead of being called by the draft. So I went in as a private and then got a commission through officer candidate school. So when I went to Korea, I was an officer.
That was lieutenant. Bob, enjoyed listening to you so much. I started to read the book. I'm interested in continuing it. I'm curious, it reads like a factual thing rather than a novel. How much, if any, of this is a true incident that really took place? Or is this all a novel? Because there's such truth that seems to ring here. Hi, Alice.
Thanks for the questions, Arnold and Helen. So I guess you might slip it in as you might call it a historical fiction. Okay. I don't like to pigeonhole it that way.
No.
The exact events, the characters are totally fictional.
Okay.
However, the unit names, place names, and the general background is true. Those are actual places, things that happen. So the Blue House raid itself, as everybody knows, actually happened. Other incidents that are in the novel happened, but maybe not exactly this, in the way they're described there.
Uh-huh. One other personal note, when you and Irene visited South Korea, did you go to those places that are alluded to in the book?
We did with Euigoo, in fact.
Okay.
We have a mutual friend in Korea, Roger Shepard, who is he's a New Zealander, but he lives in South Korea, and he runs an outfit called Hike Korea.
Mm-hmm.
He's hiked in South Korea and North Korea, but so Roger introduced me to Euigoo, and the three of us with Irene toured the Paju area where I had served as a soldier. We spoke with people there. And we even got north of the Yimchun River, very close to the DMZ, and saw some of the old camps up there, which have now fallen into decay.
It's still an active zone, isn't it?
It's
I mean, the
active.
whole area.
It's not active like it was. I mean, you don't see, continuous firefights and provocations like you did in the 60s. Every once in a while, of course, North Korea does something to get everybody's attention.
Euigoo, how's the translation going?
I think it's nearly done. We are doing a second pass, which is about just looking at Korean text. So we should be able to wrap it up this month.
Terrific.
Bob, when you and Irene went back to Korea, was there anything grossly different from the way you had been thinking or remembering it over the years, or were things pretty much the same, or what? How would you describe it?
Korea has changed dramatically since the 1960s. Seoul is completely different. Today Seoul is skyscrapers. It's a beautiful city. Back in the 67 and 68 when I was there, you saw ox carts and bicycles in the street. That was the main transportation. Up in the Paju area where I was, there were just dirt roads. There were no paved roads. There's no indoor plumbing, no electricity. Things were very difficult, very hard for the people, and that has all changed. I can recognize the areas and see a lot of things that are the same, but the people are so much better off today. It's very heartening.
Bob, I read the book, few chapter. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Janice.
Yeah. I never understand Armin, but your book is a very easy reading. I thought describe those soldiers in that serious DMZ areas, I imagine will be very difficult for me to understand, but actually it's a very easy reading. And I really is kind of living there, kind of is alive to me. I really enjoy reading. It's easy but vivid. And I'm very impressed. The first chapter that describes the North Korea soldiers commander in the beginning you see their interaction, but then they said thank you for the great leaders, and therefore we can sacrifice. That's a very good description. That's just very simple few words, but it's just alive. So thank you. I will continue finish the reading. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Janice.
I read the whole book, I think the day after I got it from you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was fascinating reading, understanding the way you presented both the Korean life and the Army life. And as you know, and I'm sure you all might want to know, not only is there a hardcover, but there's a paperback. And if you have friends or relatives, as I do, who did serve in Vietnam, or I think it makes an excellent gift. And I am sending it to 2 relatives. It's real. And I've read some of your short stories, Bob, but I was really very impressed with the way you pulled me into the narrative.
Okay, thank you, Judy. It's hard to get women interested in war stories, I think, at times. And war stories can kind of turn into just this adventure thing. And I was trying to avoid that. I was trying to give kind of an inside look at the soldiers. And I was very interested in trying to get into the heads of the Korean people also.
In the way you started writing this, how when you talk about wanting to write this great war novel, but then by the time you've actually written this, what's your journey, your evolution, and what have you achieved? Did you achieve what you wanted, or what was your purpose by the time you started writing this?
Right. As you get older, you tend to lose your adventurism, I think, and you can see things in a broader perspective. So I think when I started it, the core of the story is, American GIs. And so it kind of started off as an adventure story about what these GIs were doing. But then I decided I wanted more in there. So I brought in the North Koreans, and then I started bringing in, of course, I brought in the working girls from the villages. And in the final chapter, I brought in a woman, a civilian woman from a nearby town, because I just wanted to get that wider perspective, and so we can, not just have an adventure story.
Bob, another question. Is there going to be a sequel?
No, I didn't plan a sequel. I'm working on another novel, but it's completely different.
Oh, good. Looking forward to that too.
Yay.
Thank you.
So I enjoyed translating Bob's book, and I thought Australian English was colorful enough, but I didn't know American English could be that colorful, right? So the fun was actually translating all those swear words and the slangs that's spoken by those soldiers and so on, and subtle difference between the way they speak the people in the US North and the South. So I had to actually ask a lot of questions to Bob. So thanks for that. And really, Bob has a mastery of words. Actually, he put the right word in the right place.
Yeah.
So,
how did you and Bob meet each other? What is the relationship? I mean, how far back or how close do you go to?
Sorry, how did I? Sorry, can you just rephrase the question again? Sorry, I missed the first part.
How do you and Bob know each other? And how did you form a relationship? Is it on a personal level, or is it just professional through the book, or?
Oh, with the Bob, you mean?
With Bob, yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I met Bob 3 years ago when they came over. So I was friends with Roger Shepard that Bob mentioned about. So I worked with Roger translating and his essays to North Korea and doing crowdfunding and so on. So Roger invited me to join Bob and Roger and Irene to Paju. So I kind of met them first time there. So also I've organized some interviews that with the people Bob wants to talk to. So that's how it came about. And also that subject, what he was writing was quite close to me because when this Blue House raid and Puebla happened, I was a senior in high school. So I just remember clearly, and also we had a full blunt of the impact of that instance afterwards. So I lived through it. So yeah, I helped him, and then later on, Bob sent us to the draft of his books and the synopsis and so on. So that's how I came about. I love this book, and later on he was saying that if I was interested in translating the book, I said yes.
Bob,
Yeah.
I'd like to say something. I just wanted to say when we went to Korea, I was afraid to go, but as to travel so far away, but I'm afraid of the North Korea, but all my fears went away. I'd say overall, this is such a beautiful country. The countryside, the mountains, and in the city, spotless. And there are so many wonderful museums and historical sites, and the people are absolutely warm, lovely, and welcoming. And I think our club, the Appalachian Mountain Club, once this pandemic is over, we should start having some excursions, mountain excursions to South Korea. That would be very nice.
That is lovely, yes. Yeah.
And I'd say also the younger generation were so warm and gracious. They went out of their way to come up to us. Can I help you? I guess we looked like an old couple of tourists. But mostly everyone spoke English. Wonderful. So impressed with people. I'm glad I went.
I'm really glad that trip worked out because the rest of my life would have been miserable otherwise.
Yeah.
Bob, as a veteran of Korean conflict, which never became a war, I personally know a few people who were in. I'm sorry, I meant Korean conflict. I personally know people who served in Korea who are very angry about being the forgotten war, where a lot of people give their lives. I don't even know if they get the same veterans benefits. You would know that because it wasn't officially a war. And I know you served later after most of the heavy fighting went. But I remember talking to somebody once, a cab driver, and all he talked about was his serving in Korea and the fact that nobody in America treated him like a veteran. So I just thought, like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people that came out of World War II were treated as heroes, and the people that came out of Korea less so. I have a connection with that too. My father was in the Korean War. He's earned an Air Medal and a Bronze Star while over there. I have an uncle who was in the Korean War, same unit I was in, 2nd Infantry Division. And I was there, and my brother Dick, who I think is on the call, is also served in Korea right after I did. And at the time we were over there, in fact, even in the in-between time, right after the war stopped, it was always kind of a tricky, dangerous place. And the veterans, you do sort of get this feeling of being second rate. It also, I might also add that this applies to Vietnam veterans too, who a lot of whom get just treated like dirt. When I came back from Korea in 1969 in January, in order to get my half fare, I kept my uniform on when I flew back from the West Coast back to New York. And I remember I was getting like almost dirty looks, like, because I was a soldier, and at that time Vietnam was very unpopular. And so no matter what you think politically about the war that's going on, it's very disheartening when veterans are treated that shabbily.
Yeah.
Arnold
Oh,
and Helen, you were in Korea too. Isn't that where your friend is?
Exactly.
Oh, yes. So,
It was wonderful.
we only got to Seoul. We just
Yeah.
covered the city with them. You got
yeah,
out to the mountains, countryside.
beautiful. Yeah.
We were going to leave that for the next trip if there is a next trip.
Yeah. Oh, well, and then the train ride, the trains were incredible.
Oh, beautiful.
Clean and big.
Everybody's very ordered, very kind.
Did you ride the subway?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
we rode the subway and also to go visit your friend. We met with,
Right.
yeah, Arnold and Helen visited. You stayed there for a while.
Yep.
Do you remember the museums that with that? There were several museums there. Did you go visit some? I can't remember.
No, we didn't. We visited the tower.
Yeah, the Korean Tower.
I thought,
Just spent a lot of time walking and
yeah, it's a
former
walking
students.
city.
She introduced us to her friends, neighbors,
Yeah.
and I was standing waiting for Arnold to come. We were going to meet them at the subway stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because it's, yeah. And so I'm standing there, and this guy is about 10 feet away, and he's looking at me. And he must know me. After a while, it dawned on me. And so he finally came up to me, and he said, "Are you Helen?" And he wasn't my student, but he was in our program. But I was so delighted, and he was so excited. We were both excited. It was a wonderful, and it was the essence of the trip. It was friendly, warm,
Very, yes.
loving. It was great.
Lovely people. It's a generality, but it's true.
And son returned to visit last year. They were here.
Oh, with the children?
And the children.
Right.
They were staying in Douglaston
Queens.
in Queens.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah. And the children are lovely. They're so,
Yeah.
So Bob, I have a question for you.
I'm sorry?
Bob, I have a question for you. It's
Hi, Bobby.
how are you here? I wanted to know how it felt to finally get done with your book and turn it over to be published.
Good question.
Well, yeah, it's funny. You think that your book is done when you like write the last word, but actually it just seems like it's beginning. And, I mean, I sort of came up with a publisher almost at the last minute. I was going to slip into self-publishing, which I really wasn't too crazy about. But the Ardent Writer Press down in Alabama picked it up because their editor really liked the content. He did a job on it. He forced me to cut a lot of stuff and reorganize. He did a very nice editing job.
Was that okay for you?
It was okay. But then you're expected after you get the book out to do a lot of marketing work, which is not my forte. So, I mean, it's a mixed feeling getting the book done. It doesn't seem like it ever gets completely done. What is exciting is that that we have this translation coming out in Korean.
Yes.
And even my publisher at the Ardent Writer Press said, we've never done a translation before. This is really neat. I was wondering whether he should have picked Korean for his first foreign language.
Well, it's pertinent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking
So-
forward to reading it. I haven't read it yet, but I am looking forward to reading it.
Thanks.
Bob, another question. Are you planning a book tour by any chance, locally or regionally, or is the publisher have that in mind?
No, well, the publisher is very small, so he leaves the marketing up to me. And I mean, normally we would have had a regular live party to launch the book. But you just can't do that right now. So I just don't know when things are going to get back to normal.
I wonder if Barnes and Noble does any of these kinds of Zoom launches instead of in-person readings as they do. Have you
I've
looked into
I've
that?
seen I think the Strand does and a few places do.
Okay.
So we will probably start looking into that.
Because maybe they'll do one on Zoom like this, which could be good too.
I haven't seen any
Anyway, thank you.
of readings. Great.
I bought mine on Amazon. I just want people to know that you can buy it on Amazon. And I found that very easy, fairly low cost. And because I only can read a big print, I can read it on Amazon and on the Kindle, which is
I can't wait till the pandemic is over so we can have an in-person party.
That's good.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to look forward to
Mhm.
also.
Yeah. Or if you want a print copy, look on my website because I can give it to you cheaper than Amazon. But if you're looking for a Kindle, I think it's only $4 right now on Amazon. So that's the most, if you like Kindle, that's the most cost-effective way to go.
Okay.
Bob, how long were you in the military?
3.5 years.
And when did you think of making the military a career, or what moved you? Was it?
No, not really. By 3.5 years, I figured that would be enough. Yeah.
Hi, Bob, congratulations. I have to go for the dinner. Irene, good to see you. Finally.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'd like to see you in person again someday. So
Yeah, very Sundays and
Yeah.
on the way to Boston.
yes,
Back to hiking.
yes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You're all coming. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Bob, this was just delightful.
Well, thanks, Alice.
Wonderful.
Thanks for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, when you forgot to mention, if they buy from you, you autograph it.
I will, if you buy from me, I will autograph it. Yes. But and Pam, I will autograph yours when I get up to New Hampshire again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
I'm saying goodbye.
Bye bye, Alice.
See you guys soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Helen and Arnold, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Steve.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Steve.
Okay, raise the virtual glass of champagne, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh,
This is some red wine.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, say Corona is.
Euigoo, what time is it in Australia?
It's 10 o'clock, just 8 past 10 in the morning.
In the morning, okay.
Yeah.
That's-
We are about 16 hours ahead of you. Sorry,
Okay.
16 hours. Yeah.
So it's
So
like,
it's
it's like
Thursday.
tomorrow.
Okay, Thursday.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Oh, it's
October.
Bob, do you speak Korean?
I can say 안녕하세요. But beyond that, it gets a little difficult.
Okay.
Well,
He certainly can say a few words, yes.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. 네. 아니요. That's okay.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to newspaper editor, Korean local newspaper editor here in Sydney, and the editor was about, I think, must be about my daughter's age, in the 30s. So I talked to her about, the Blue House raid, 121 incident. She had no idea what I was talking about. She said she has Googled it. It's getting forgotten even in Korea too. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to say about this book, and I just talked to my professor in my university. He's very famous, writer, and he said he's expecting the very exciting story. He said so. He said I will buy if you comes book. I will buy. He said.
In other words, of saying you never know, it may be turned into a movie. You never know. Okay?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are working towards it. Someone writes, someone actually, Anna's friend might want to write into a script, and somebody turned it into a movie. Never know. Okay?
Movie contract, that would be all right. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Have a good night, all.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
Okay.
Actually, one of a very famous Korean comedian, who is name is Kim Young-ah, is a woman. She said she was in Changpari and she did a show in Changpari area. So she said, "Oh, their story is probably very exciting," she said.
Yeah, for everybody for the context, the Changpari, that's the village across the river from the U.S. Army units. That's where a lot of GIs actually spend their spare times. And it's a small village of about 5,000 permanent residents, and with about 30,000 temporary transient people in that village. So Bob says actually about 20,000 of them would be in the working girls at the time, at the height of that place. So that's why we, a comedian friend who actually retired in Sydney, and because I heard about that actually, that those clubs had a little stage, so a lot of Korean singers launched their singing careers in that place as well. So I asked this lady, the comedian lady, actually, if she knew the place. She said that she knew very well because she performed a lot of time there. So how come? She was a comedian, and she actually made the working girls laugh, which was great actually. So that's how it all connects up actually. Yeah.
I'd like to share one.
Yeah, that place actually. After the army moved off that place, that place became, everyone's gone, and it became quite a backdrop at the backwater again. And those clubs, they're all turned into a state of disrepair. But somebody actually a few years back actually looked at it and actually restored it, all the decorations and all that. So they actually they turned it into the same kind of some performing arts place. So actually the village is actually coming back, and people are getting better than before. So that was actually quite overwhelming. And they actually, all the singers came back and they performed there as well.
May I butt in, Bob?
Good.
May I butt in, please?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the reading. It was great hearing you, and it was great hearing the Korean words. Thank you, Euigoo. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting my copies I ordered on your website.
Oh, terrific.
And that's copies, okay? And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
Oh, wow, yeah.
If I can please just have a little, cameo, okay? I could be like a commander or something, all right?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more of your work, Dorothea, in January, probably.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bob, I'm going to be leaving also, so congratulations. Really nice job, and I'll see you in January also.
Okay, thanks, Martin.
Okay, guy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off it
Bob,
now and go
I
order
wanted
the
to
book. So congratulations again. I'll see you.
Okay.
I'm gonna go order it right now. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay,
Bye,
we'll see you around, yeah.
Okay.
Bob, I wanted to compliment you on your detail. I think everybody in the military should be reading your book. I don't know how you can find out where to go, but I would think young people who are serving or those who have never served would gain so much from reading your book. I've only read like 5 chapters, but already I've seen things that I think really would, if you can reach that market somehow, find it.
It was a different world back then when every young man had to consider the possibility of going into the military, and it was really different. And in Korea today, that still is the case, right?
Yeah,
everybody has to serve, right?
Yeah, there are about still 28,000 GIs working there. So maybe getting into the camp countries, that's a huge the base in South Korea.
By the way, I worked near Korean Way, so I went to Korean restaurants a lot, and I got a kick out of your mention of kimchi. But I don't think you emphasize kimchi enough, because kimchi is a cultural thing. For anyone who doesn't work on the East Coast or the West Coast, they probably have never heard of it, because there are not a lot of Korean restaurants anywhere else. And I just thought that maybe you could have, well, you can't go back in time, but I got such a kick out of just reading about the kimchi always being in the food mix, because it always is.
I we eat kimchi just about every night.
And morning too.
Yeah.
For breakfast.
A sojo is a pretty good drink too.
I think we favor makgeolli, don't we? Or Roger does anyhow.
I didn't hear that.
Steve, how are you doing?
Maybe he doesn't hear.
Oh, I hear you.
Oh. Hi. Well, hi, Steve. I wanted to send you a chat, but I don't see your name there. So I was waiting for you.
Actually, I got quite an advanced copy of the book about 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm through about 4 chapters. Not being an Army person and never having served in the Army, it was certainly eye-opening. I had to get through the rest, but I found it a little difficult because since I'm not an Army brat, in terms of knowing the terms and understanding all the Army dialogue, it was interesting to read. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, Steve.
Arnold, was your experience in the Army, does that sound similar, or?
I was never overseas.
Yeah.
No, but I was going to comment on what this other gentleman said. Bob, all you have to do is know how to curse. And that's covers the
you have to be able to salute too.
Oh, he does. Helen thinks you don't use those words. She hasn't looked at the book.
What years were you in in the Army. I remember you went away training and I came to visit you with Aunt Anna and Uncle,
I was
Uncle
in
Joe.
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Kentucky. Oh, I thought you were in New Jersey
Yeah,
first.
that's
Oh,
basically.
that's where we visited you. Yeah.
You were a little girl.
Yeah. I got the strangest feeling being in such a big place with all men, the way they
I
look
hate
at
men.
you. Look at the little girl.
Scary for me too. Anyways, good seeing you all.
Yeah.
Thanks, hon.
Next time in person, okay?
Steve, are you back in New? Right,
I hope so.
absolutely.
Yeah, yes, I'm back in New York.
Okay, we'll see you too, Steve. I hope.
Okay, very
Good night.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Thanks again.
Bye, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Do we wind down?
Inviting us.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're still on.
Okay.
yeah, we'll be the hostess. We'll stay to the end.
Okay, so maybe we should just say goodnight. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was really
Thank
nice
you
to
both,
see
Rob
everyone.
and Igloo. You were wonderful. Very helpful.
Oh, thank you.
Backbone.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, this was very nice. What a nice event.
Yeah, it was.
What a-
Turned out to be
really
great.
nice.
Hey, Dick, are you on the call?
Huh?
He's
I see my brother Dick on the
Yeah.
call, but he's muted. You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk to us.
You still see him?
Yeah.
No, he's on the phone, but he's muted.
Oh.
It's okay. So anyhow, I think it went reasonably well. We had I don't know, 30, 40 people, something like that.
It really was nice.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was just fun to do the reading. You really got into it, especially towards the end there.
I probably shouted too much.
No, it was good. It was good.
It was Junseok's first day at Unit 124, so he was highly strung up and all disciplines and everything. So you need to look right and get ready for action. So
yeah.
When the Korean version comes out, you guys should do the reading again.
Well,
yeah, but I think you might have to do it all.
No, you reverse the
reverse. Yeah, okay.
Reverse the role. Yeah.
I will shout in English. Yeah.
Shout in English. That's great. Anyway, I gotta go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night, Irene.
Good night.
See you later. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
How do I get out of here? Congratulations. Congratulations to you both.